This is Flying Sparks on Indiegogo, and it looks great. But I know JDA is fighting with EVS for some reason. I don't care. And War Campaign is involved somehow. I don't care. Let me tell you, Cyberfrog looks very good to me. Vestige by War Campaign looks good, and Flying Sparks looks good. I don't have to pick sides just because one person is bickering with another person. We're not in grammar school. You can like all the campaigns you like. When Cecil's book comes out, I will be first in line to buy it. But that doesn't mean I'm going to boycott Tim Lim just because he made a couple of faux pas in the past. He's a transcript guy. Anyway, Comicsgate has gotten so weird lately. Really weird. We're acting like SJWs and fighting amongst ourselves. We're fighting like cats in a bag that Renfamous is carrying to the river to drown. Because Renfamous is the kind of person to drown kittens. Mark Waid is the kind of guy to stay on the shore jerking off to the idea of drowning kittens, as long as they are Comicsgate kittens, because Mark Waid is that kind of degenerate. First of all, let me say that if you are gay or straight, Christian, Muslim, Jew, Hindu, atheist, you are totally welcome to join the Comicsgate party. The Renfamouses of the world keep strawmanning us by calling us all-right Nazis. That term has a specific meaning because words matter. I have not met anyone in Comicsgate who is alt-right. Myself and many others are mixed race. They're calling us Nazis, which is ironically painful because many of us had family killed by them. I had family killed by the Nazis and tortured to death by the Russian communists. We aren't fans of either side. They're calling Tim Lim alt-right. He is the Asian creator of Black Ops. Comicsgate is remarkably diverse for a hate group. Why are the anti-Comicsgate people so threatened by a group of independent business people? Because they're losing control of the narrative. The SJWs controlled the propaganda known as mainstream comics, and if you look at the numbers, they definitely still are in charge, but that is slowly changing. Comicsgate is still just a tiny percentage of the industry. It's no threat to the SJWs. Or is it? Well, yes, it is a threat. From small acorns, mighty oaks grow. Even if it is never a threat to mainstream comics, it shows that there is an alternative to SJW propaganda comics, and that scares the hell out of them. SJWs can't handle free expression or a free market, because when it comes down to it, SJWs are bad people with bad ideas, and in the open marketplace of ideas, bad ideas can't compete. How bad are SJW comics? People are willing to spend a premium for Comicsgate graphic novels from unknown creators because they're eager for comics where every good character isn't a brown woman and every bad character isn't blonde and blue-eyed. Do the SJWs think we don't notice this? There are thousands of these books. The protagonist is African or Middle Eastern, and the antagonists are all blonde, red-haired. Why would people pay for this racism and misandry? You can have brown protagonists, but you have to have brown antagonists. Everyone needs a chance to be the hero and the villain. But SJWs can't stand the idea of not portraying the English or Germans in a negative light. They literally have no problem marginalizing and oppressing blonde and red-haired people. They are dehumanizing them, and they don't see their hypocrisy. SJWs are the most racist, sexist, vile, hateful people on Earth. They are worse than ISIS. At least with ISIS, you have a chance to convert to Islam. With SJWs, there's no forgiveness. That's why there is no point in apologizing to SJWs. They believe in fear-based compliance. The threat of canceling you hangs over you forever. SJWs live in perpetual fear of other SJWs. They always eat their own. That's why they go out of their way to virtue signal as loud as possible. Normies have friends of different groups. SJWs will be sure to tell you that they have friends of different groups. But they don't actually have friends. They have people that they haven't stabbed in the back yet. Male feminists will stab you in the back hole. Translation, struggle snuggle. So watch out for SJW men. They're very dangerous. The male feminists believe that SJW girls owe them sex because they are allies. SJW women are more likely to have right-wing boyfriends. I have seen it happen all the time. These girls are SJWs online, but then they log off and they are subservient to their boyfriends. Maybe the MAGA hat turns them on. This is the long preamble to bring me to my point. Get off Twitter. Leave Twitter to the SJWs. We can take over YouTube and BitChute. There are weirdos like Ren who are on Twitter all day. It takes hours of your day. It's not making you money, and it causes stress that isn't good for your health. If it was Comicsgate against anti-Comicsgate, that would be cool. But it's now become Comicsgate versus Comicsgate. The factions are only forming due to the nature of Twitter. It's a miscommunication network that doesn't allow for nuance in 280 characters. It mostly allows NPCs to mindlessly virtue signal. I'm seeing a lot of Comicsgate pros acting like SJWs on Twitter. Now, I'm not going to name names. You can see them for yourself. I feel like I'm leaving things about some pros and learning things about some pros in Comicsgate that I had been blind to before. Everyone has feet of clay, except for Cecil, peace be upon him. The worst insult I can think of is to say that we're acting like SJWs, but that is exactly what is happening. Get off Twitter, or at the very least, know that there's no need to insert yourself into every issue and try and control people. Twitter has become the Hatfields and the McCoys. Two guys get in a tiff, then their friends jump in. It's better to just observe and move on. You don't need to win every argument. What have you won in a Twitter battle? That little hit of dopamine? Winning a Twitter fight is like being the last guy to die in a war. Let's take a look at some people acting badly. They're acting in a way I never would have conceived a year ago. Can't we just go back to that earlier time when EVS had a huge show? People were on it all the time. I mean, we can recreate that if someone else gets a good show going. Admittedly, EVS is an excellent character, but Cecil, John Malin, Kelsey Shannon, and the Star Wars girl, they have a lot of potential. I think they could be the next big thing, but they're not really that interested in showcasing creators, at least not yet. In fact, the other big channels, Tug and Yellow Flash, they're not interested in showcasing creators either. And some of the smaller channels that do showcase creators, they're just not. They just need time to, ripen. This is a bizarre argument that went in dark corners very, very quickly, and I just can't believe that some of it is involving members of Comicsgate. EVS says, bro, we used to say that about Edwin and Mike. He's talking about Jingoistic Pig. He says, no way in hell Praetorian would ever retweet support of JDA's book. Why not? Just because you have a friend of yours who's in an argument with another friend over something very, very minor, it doesn't mean you have to blindly jump in and support your friend. You would ask, this isn't war. If someone is upset, I would ask, well, what happened to upset you? Where's the evidence? What's the issue over? Is it important enough to get involved? And these people are fighting over things that other people allegedly said, but then they don't actually show evidence that these people said these things. And he was on a show once, and they were accusing him of things, and he said, I never said those things. I don't believe those things that you're saying I believe. I mean, things I can't even say on YouTube because the algorithm will pick up the hot words, but he was saying he didn't believe those things. I don't believe those things. Most people don't believe those things. It's kind of alt-right philosophies. I haven't met anyone in Comicsgate who believes in those kind of ideals. But if you want to insult someone and burn them down, you just call them that because it's a very, very strong insult. But, I mean, if you're going to accuse someone of an extraordinary claim, it requires extraordinary evidence. Anyway, this whole mess has gone down a dark path. I'm starting to think if a gay Jew declared themselves Comicsgate, it would be more controversial than anything. What's worse, this is over comics book. What are you talking about? There are gay people and Jewish people, Christians, and probably a few Muslims, and maybe Hindus and atheists, maybe a few witches and Wiccas and Satanists in Comicsgate. Comicsgate is a large, diverse group. I mean, there's a hardcore of maybe, 2,000 people who are watching live streams, and then 10,000 people who are buying books, and then 100,000 people who are kind of loosely associated with Comicsgate and will occasionally jump in. So everyone is involved in Comicsgate. It's not this what you're straw manning it to be. And the girl right below says she's female Jewish and she's a supporter of Comicsgate. Yeah, of course, everyone's in Comicsgate. Stop with this kind of thing. I mean, this is all straw man. Cecil is love. Yes, Cecil is love. Peace be upon his holy name. Going back and forth about Praetorian, and that's something to do with Edwin and JDA and Vox Day and War Campaign. And I'm just not privy to all that kind of information. Like I said, there's too many Comicsgate channels to follow. You literally could not follow everyone, all the news in Comicsgate, and Comicsgate adjacent, and Comicsgate 1 versus Comicsgate 2, and War Campaign. And the only thing I will say, I like everyone associated with Comicsgate. Some people I don't understand. I don't understand Doug Tennapel, the way he talked to EVS, but I'm not trying to cancel Doug Tennapel. If you like him, great. Go buy his books. His book looks fantastic. I don't hate the guy. If he put out a good book, I'd probably get it. I just don't understand his behavior. But I'm not reaching a conclusion. I'm saying I don't understand the analysis of behavior. And the only other person in Comicsgate I don't really get is Vox Day. I listened to a few of his live streams. It just wasn't my cup of tea. That kind of thing just wasn't my cup of tea. I mean, most of the time he's talking about, I don't know, music and that kind of things. It's just, not everyone is for everyone. And I'm sure people listen to me because I'm bringing up difficult topics and they think, oh, you must be, alt-right. No, I'm not alt-right. I don't think I could be alt-right. Just bringing up protected categories, protected classes, doesn't automatically make one alt-right. You can criticize an argument without believing an argument. You can be the devil's advocate. If you don't know your opponent's argument, then you don't know your own argument. And it wasn't that long ago, I mean, maybe 30 years ago, when people could sit down and you'd go to a debating class and you would argue both sides of an issue. No problem. You could argue abortion, pro and con. No problem. Any issue, you should be able to argue both sides of it. And listen, criticizing Muslims nowadays, if you criticize Muslims, guess what you get called? You get called Islamophobic. Think about that. That's kind of a cultural Marxism thing where you create certain terms to protect people from dialogue, debate, and criticism. Well, we need to always be able to criticize certain ideas. And if you criticize certain groups, what do they call you? Well, they call you a German of the 1930s. It's just it's disingenuous. I mean, we should be able to argue and reason and debate. Anyway, this kind of stuff I don't like to see people ganged up on. And I don't know much about JDA. I've heard some of his stuff. His books look good. His writing looks good, but he's getting ganged up on by people who are not putting forth any evidence. So I'm always going to take the side of the little guy. Anyway, this is sad to see this kind of stuff going on. And I'm seeing Comicsgate professionals acting like this. It's like a red pilling moment to learn that people are doing this. Again, let me conclude. Get off Twitter. You don't need it. It's not making you money. It's causing you stress. The dopamine hit isn't worth it. Anyway, guys, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next episode. And be sure to check out Flying Sparks on Indiegogo. Just because your buddy is arguing with someone, it doesn't mean that you're not allowed to like something. Okay, guys. See ya.